Miss Romie, it's time for us to set sail.
Oh my gosh, already? Well, okay, Miss Blossom. Let's go.
We're gonna talk shit. We're gonna talk shit. Get here.
With Blossom.
And Romie.
Hello, Romie.
Hello, Miss Blossom.
We're here. The podcast is still going. Look at us.
Still doing it. Everyone said they wouldn't make it past 5 episodes. And here we are, nearly 3 episodes later.
Right, they could still be right, but they're not right yet. I'm Blossom Drearie.
And I'm Romie Romak.
And welcome to Talk Ship Get Hip, the only Love Boat podcast episode by episode review show.
Yes.
And our own podcast about whatever we want it to be also.
The only Love Boat podcast starring us.
Currently, we might get the network might really...
It may become an extended universe. And
but our rival network might also book us for a Love Boat review podcast.
Oh.
But we'll have to have a new name. New names for the show, new names for us.
Right, for anonymity, because we're getting hired by our competitor to be us, because we're so irreplaceable, because we're so inimitable that you can only hire us, but then we have to be in an alternate disguise, a different persona, in order to compete with ourselves. But do we throw the game? Do we give something cursed? Like, are we 70s McDonald land, which would be apropos for the time period of the show that we're watching, or are we like 80s, 90s McDonald land? Or are we even earlier where Ronald McDonald is like covered in trash?
Okay, you lost me there. But I remember how evil the corporations were at becoming corporations.
Yeah,
that is not us. We are anti-capitalist on this podcast. Absolutely.
No, that's very true. I'm just shoehorning in a weird new micro interest of mine, which is forgotten McDonald's mascots and how they were sued by the Crofts for stealing their design for Mayor McCheese from HR Puff and stuff. Anyway,
Laura Croft. Laura Croft sued McDonald's. Tomb Raider Laura Croft. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for Angelina.
Yes.
Are we allowed to? Yeah, we're allowed to. Obviously, we're allowed to name drop actors and actresses on our podcast because we will be doing that today. We're here to review the 2nd episode of season 1 of The Love Boat. But before we do, we have to check in. We have to unload. We have to check our baggage. You know, we're embarking on a cruise within the cruise within the cruise. So, my sister, how are you? How are you since I've talked to you last week? What luggage, what baggage do we have to check in for our trip and for our destination?
I love the idea of maintaining the illusion that the last you saw me was last week when I saw you earlier today.
That's TV magic.
Yesterday evening. No,
that's podcast magic.
Anyway, last week.
This is us practicing for RuPaul's Drag Race.
Exactly. Every day is referred to as a week.
That's what it feels like sometimes.
No, it is. If any day has been a week, it's been this one, and maybe the one before that. But anyway, I've been good. Segueing from that, quite busy, but busy is good. Booked and cursed.
I was hoping we weren't summoning that again from in this episode, but
and I promised not to say it next time. But I was going to ask: is there 1 movie? Are there 3 movies? I'm just kidding.
Oh no, that's okay. I think that's going to make sense for us. We don't see each other once a week, but even with the frequency that we do see each other and make cool art together, I'm sure repetition is bound to occur. It's just as a thing. We're busy and we have a lot of thoughts that come in and out of the head, and sometimes they come in again.
Oh yeah, and I have like an awful memory, like the worst memory. People say goldfish memory, but I'm sure there's a dumber animal.
Romie memory.
Romie memory with the worst memory.
Romemory. Sexy robot lady.
Is it a dream or a memory?
So she's busy. We should
I've been busy, but I've been good. I was green twice last week. I was Baby Yoda, and my Baby Yoda number was...
a slay. Absolute slay. From what it looked like online, I wasn't there.
I'm glad that it had that veneer online. Alexander Chase took really great pics from both nights, and there's a couple images that make it look as though the Baby Yoda number went off without a hitch. So it did.
Yeah, shout out to local photographers, shout out local Alex. And yes, if you are listening to our podcast and you are in the audience of a drag show, maybe you don't go often or maybe you do, pictures are usually always welcome, unless it's specified otherwise. But take some photos, tell the performers who are your subjects, tell the producers, and, with permission, share them. Because I know myself as a fabulous drag queen, I like to be photographed, darling, and I want to see all of the documentation.
Yes. And also, that's how I remember that things happened.
Photos are great. You slayed the dragatry of it all, the drag shenanigans. But your business, I feel like we should touch in a little this episode, like paint more of my sister's schedule. She, as a hair witch, a hair maven, you are just busting it out from early morning, next club, next shift, next color correction, next shag. So many shags here in our little city.
I do work full time, 5 days a week, doing hair during the daytime, in addition to all of the other nonsense that I do. And, I asked for a busy life. I like having a busy life. Everything that I get to do is stuff that I love doing. But I still find myself throwing around phrases like booked and cursed. But it is a blessing. It's a blessing to be busy. I'm sure at some point I'll have a day where I'm not doing anything. And that may require planning that I also just kind of don't feel like doing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's good. I mean, I don't want to complain. I mean, I hate it when people complain about being busy.
Yeah, because once you're not busy, you'll wish you're busy. But,
exactly.
It's a balance, and it's a push and pull. It's a low tide. It's a high tide.
I try to let myself enjoy it. I try to remind myself that I brought this upon myself, and I have to, reap the seeds that I sowed or whatever.
The girl did it to her damn self is all I have to say.
Had it coming.
Yes, we want to historicize those two phrases as phrases that we will say on this podcast. And as part of our vernacular, that is something. We don't have a soundboard yet. Or maybe we do. Maybe if I just magically press my finger down like this in the air.
She had it coming.
That will happen with technology in the future. But here, let me do a quick baggage check-in. Or are you interested?
Of course I am. Of course I am. I'm sorry for not asking back. I just digressed again.
No, it's okay. I think
How
we should.
have you been?
I think we should
tell
practice.
me about your romantic baggage.
Oh,
Practice.
I think we should practice more in conversations with anyone we like to ask, are you interested in hearing about me?
Yeah, that is an interesting consent check.
Yes.
But then But then who's going to just say, actually no, I passed. You know what I mean? So it's a lovely gesture.
Can you hold?
I'm
space?
very interested.
Can you hold space for me to give you an answer to how are you?
I would love to hear how you are, darling.
Okay, and you have off air.
Which doesn't exist outside the vacuum of this show. So
right,
how are you?
because I only see you on air once a week.
Right.
I'm doing good. I'm feeling booked as well. And actually, to be honest, I am feeling a little booked and cursed too. That's the double flip of the double side of the side of the double coin.
It's only because you care and you want to do everything at a certain standard, which comes with pressure. It's pressure we place upon our damn selves. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm happy though. It's good to keep chugging along. I'm taking a little bit of a break soon. This is a fun astrological slip-in. Your girl is a Sagittarius sun. She needs to go venture. Adventure isn't only physical, moving your body through physical space. You could adventure all kinds of ways, metaphysically, emotionally, medicinally. But I am physically adventuring by going to see a friend up a little bit north of us, and then I'm zipping on over to the East Coast for a second. For things. That's so vague. But I'm excited to use this time to heal.
Yes.
Aren't we always healing?
Oh, yes, yes. And you'll give everyone here an opportunity to miss you. I'm certainly going to.
I know. I'll miss you too.
Yeah.
I mean, we will talk. Wink, wink. Because we talk outside of this. Okay. Baggage is checked in. We are ready to go on our cruise. I mean, that's kind of a good example too, because you can't possibly bring everything with you. You can't fit everything in a suitcase. And just like that, we can't. And just like that, the HBO reboot of Sex and the City. No, and just like that, we can't fit our whole check-in into a segment of our podcast.
And just like that, my husband was keeled over, dead on a Peloton.
He had it coming.
He did, though. He kind of brought it upon his damn self.
Did you watch that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like... I watched a few episodes of it. Actually, admittedly, I did not watch the first one. I think I tuned in like later in the season.
There's been 2 seasons?
No, like later in that one weird, like, and just like that.
I think another season is coming.
Oh, God. Well, I mean, I'll be curious. I'm always just like curious as to what they're going to do with the characters. But poor Steve.
Did you
Poor
watch Did you
Steve.
watch the original?
Yes, of course. I watched the original. I actually, honestly, I've talked about this before, but of all of the fandoms that I used to be a part of all of the things I was like into, that I'm probably most embarrassed of Sex and the City, having been a fan. But, in my defense, there weren't a lot of like, I don't know. They're like the pickings were so small on TV back then.
Totally. I mean, taught a generation of people and showed a generation of people of like metropolitan, urban, girl boss lifestyles, right?
Self-narration.
Main girl character syndrome. Be your own protagonist. Be your own lucky girl, I think is something they say on TikTok now. Lucky girl syndrome.
Ooh.
Which again, as a Sagittarius who has a relationship with Jupiter, she has fortune abound. Speaking of TV shows, speaking of fandoms, speaking of slim pickings, let's talk about episode 2 of The Love Boat. Episode 2 of season 1.
Episode 2 of season 1.
Came out a week later than episode 1. This episode came out on October 1st of 1977. And it's called O'Dale, !
Dale. Mr. Worldwide. It's O'Dale.
Yes, if you're Romie or if you're from Miami, it'd be Dale. And the main event is the second title of this episode, and A Tasteful Affair is the third one.
Yeah, because they all have kind of like these triptych titles that are supposed to reflect the 3 little vignettes, the little stories going on the sordid little love boat that we weave.
Bound ourselves on. Yeah.
Throw ourselves off of even.
That happens in this
It does.
episode. People overboard. I was going to say man overboard, but we're inclusive. 3 vignettes in each episode. And we remembered in this episode that they're directed by different people, which is interesting. Like to think about that collaboration of like 3 different directors basically creating one episode. I guess, is that common? I don't know. For me, it felt weird.
3 directors per episode?
Well, in the credits, each of these little vignettes, it was like, O'Dale directed by that person.
Interesting.
And then, unless they were using pseudonyms as well.
Well, as we'll get into, O'Dale had a few plot holes that I think were a little less glaring in the other 2 stories, so.
Yeah, speaking of that, let's read the overview synopsis of this episode. So it goes as follow. Dale Reinhardt pursues the girl who dumped him and dresses in drag to get the only available cabin.
Drag.
More on that later. Bickering, Maury and Stella Marshall get stuck in an elevator. Jeanette Bradford is followed by the private investigator her husband hired to keep tabs on her.
Oh, yes. In other news, John Ritter from Three's Company is... I was excited that he's going to be in this episode because, I hadn't seen a lot of Three's Company. It's cool that we've got, in our second episode, another Three's Company star. But after Miss Suzanne being in the last one, but I was always a fan of the Problem Child movies, as we were talking about before we started shooting, and he was so cute as Mr. Healy. He was so patient with that kid. That kid tried to kill people, and he tried to see the good in him. It was really, but yeah, John Ritter was very cute.
Cute in this episode too.
Yeah, cute in this episode. I don't think, to my knowledge, he did anything awful. I think he was pretty cool. So bless his soul.
Yeah, we can keep it that way. Ignorance is bliss. But
I know.
Yeah, John Ritter as Mr. Reinhardt. a cutie, but a rather unfortunate character to be. I mean, not unfortunate. We need bad representation. Need representation of how not to treat one another. Essentially, Dale, John Ritter, has, he's stolen some luggage and some suitcases to get up into the drags of it all, so that he can essentially stalk and harass this girl who it seems he's only had one date with, and she wasn't even clear if it was a date, but he is head over heels. And so literally he is in heels, he's head over in his own heels to bother her on her cruise.
Yeah, this was kind of the dawn, because this being 77 was sort of the dawn of those like situational comedies that put people in like drag or some sort of weird alternate identity costume. And the situational aspect of it was like she was only allowed to share a bunk with a woman, and he also wanted to spy on her. So, I mean, we can see this episode might be, as we've made note of, this could be where transphobia comes from, because it's the exact narrative that's trying to be pushed. And we'll see how ridiculous it is. John Ritter goes, I know what I'll do, and then sees like a couple of mature women, steals their suitcase, and then also steals like a wig box from another lady with fabulous hair, and does some really booger all drag is, but then it's like, is it drag? I guess I don't know. It was played up for laughs from a very like weird cis hetero perspective, as we'll see, but it is cursed, and I love cursed drag, and I love the cursed voice that she does. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, we will be reviewing those looks, those drag looks that are pulled. I mean, okay, we will see some beautiful gowns, but we will be reviewing that in a later segment. But yeah, you bring up a great point. A timely point. Not great. It's actually quite opposite of great. That we're seeing, another example of maybe drag being used as like, or even to some degree being normalized in this context of like American 70s TV media back then. And we're recording this episode as literal bans on drag are taking place in our nation,
right.
Which we know are disguised as like more legislation to like, basically eradicate trans people.
Yeah, it's really anti-trans.
To which we say to all of that, screw that, and burn it all into flames. But
Yeah.
maybe us unearthing the fact that drag has once again been part of the tapestry of media for quite some time in our collective consciousness, that, honey, it's really not something to ban. There are other things to focus on.
Yeah, ban a different art form. I say ban pastels.
Easter has been found shaking.
No, not the palette. No, the pastel chalks, because they're so messy. But they are fun. They're cool. I don't know. Ban light installations.
Romie,
think about the message.
Huge sectors of our potential audience are now signing off and closing out of
because they're light installation artists. I know. I'm not saying to ban. I'm just saying, how can you ban an entire art form? That's insane.
I know. Yeah. Well, anyways, Miss Dale, she was serving something. We will get into those looks. She was serving some chapstick and mascara, absolutely. But she had a nice unit on and some gowns. I mean, she has one walk around gig gown, and then she kind of has one evening gown. Unfortunately,
we'll see.
She packed light. I mean, she stole light. Okay. This and the overall theme of this that we're introduced to all the couples in the first 3 minutes is bicker. They are all bickering. They're loading onto this cruise with baggage of their own, and unfortunately, it's tricky baggage. So the second couple we see, who I'm assuming is kind of in the second name of the episode of the main event, which
yes.
I don't quite understand that, if there's a pun there. But it's Maury and Stella Marshall, played by actors Sherman Hemsley and LaWanda Page.
Legendary Sherman Hemsley and LaWanda Page from 70s TV.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fabulous and also very funny. And I think the standouts from this episode in some ways. Look-wise, but also just relationship dynamic-wise, that they're kind of carrying a lot of the comedy, or at least a lot of the moments that I laughed at. The boo, the boy, the hubby, Maury, is a sausage entrepreneur. He owns like a sausage company.
A sausage empire?
A sausage empire, if you will. And he has sausage-shaped business cards. That's amazing.
He's sausage bossing hard.
Yeah. Have you ever had a business card?
Yes, I have had those, like, chintzy Vistaprint ones that, like, the free package, not like the not the one that you have to pay for.
Chintzy Vistaprint is a great drag name.
Welcome to this. Chintzy Vistaprint would be, Vistaprint, just Vistaprint would be a pretty sick name for a queen. Another free drag name. Maybe that can be a new...
Print.
Vista La Print. Hewlett Packard.
But was it shaped as a sausage?
Oh, yeah. So the sausage business cards. There's this running joke about how she wears Chanel No. 5, but he always smells like sausage because of the sausage empire. And so whenever people are walking by, they're like, oh, I smell something. And then people argue about whether or not it's perfume or sausage.
Mm-hmm. Much to Stella's despair. Chagrin? Is that a word? Chagrin?
Chagrin, yeah.
Chagrin.
I love chagrin. Despair, too, though. I don't know. I like despair.
I was trying to think of a synonym to chagrin while I couldn't remember how to pronounce it. Yeah, great. And so their main plot point is that they do get stuck in an elevator. And it becomes like a lovely liminal space for them to duke it out. Hash things out, really. They're not physically fighting in there. Well, in some ways they're trying to climb on top of each other to get out of the elevator. But eventually someone saves them. But you did for a second the montage of the elevator short-circuiting. My sister thought this was Final Destination. Or
yeah, like they're going to die. And no, because, okay, so they kept fidgeting with the gears. Sherman would be like, let's go up. Lawanda would be like, let's go down. What are their characters' names again?
Stella
Maury
and Maury.
Stella. So Maury would be like, let's go up, and Stella would be like, let's go down. And then they would be like pressing the elevator buttons, and it would show these shots of like a gear like kind of sparking as it's being forced up and down really quickly, repetitively. And so, you think they're going to die in there. And maybe they do, fan conspiracy theory, because they reconcile their whole marriage. They break up for a second, and then they come back together.
Yeah. Let's take a break before we talk about plot number 3.
Speaking of breaking up.
And the girls are back.
We are.
In Love Boat universe, it's like one of 3 stops, or they make a few stops on their cruise. Maybe we just went to Puerto Vallarta. They don't know.
There are a few disappearances of people.
Right.
Yeah, some people disappear.
Yeah, but we didn't. We're back on our podcast.
We're back.
So the third of the triptych of plots in this episode, we have Jeanette, I think is the
Jeanette.
correct. Mm-hmm.
Jeanette.
And her hubby Lucas, we see them enter the cruise. Lucas is like, I'm sorry, baby, I can't go on the cruise with you. I'm too busy, but you have fun. He says something weird like, don't meet too many people or something. He's giving wary eye for sure.
Yeah, don't have too much fun without me.
Right. And then we quickly discover that he has hired a private investigator to privately investigate his wife while she's off on this cruise because he is in a insecure place or a place to not trust Jeanette. Well, that kind of puts the onus on Jeanette. He feels he needs to do that, which is a bummer because Jeanette is nothing of the sorts. She is loyal. She is fierce. And spoiler, her and the private investigator Dennis end up falling in love with each other.
Even though Jeanette was only looking for some sightseeing and some sunshine. But yeah, that was also kind of a weird story to tell in such a short period of time. Like, you fall for the private investigator, you fall for the suspicious blonde man who's been following you around. But that also sounds like something I would do, so.
A beautiful, rotund, golden coconut bowl head of hair on this private investigator, kind of giving us a mix of Rocky from Rocky Horror and that one person from Barbarella who flies on angel wings and carries Jane Fonda around.
There's a little bit of that.
See, I can do obscure film references too,
Right.
kind of. I don't know if Barbarella is obscure, but maybe that character is.
Flash Gordon-y kind of moment.
Yes. We just see Dennis trying to catch Jeanette in the moment. He's scribbling things down in his sticky notepad. And then Jeanette just ends up being like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm just chilling on this cruise by myself. Thanks, though. And then he crumples up his notes and tosses it away because the man couldn't get any evidence.
No, there was nothing to take note of. And they were both honest. He could have just made something up. He could have done this all as entrapment, but it was genuine. Their romance, I guess.
Right. Like the foundation of hiring a private investigator is that you think that paying them large sums of money will make them truthful to you, I guess, or
It's kind of like the question of like, how do you rise to power in like the Batman universe? Like, how do you become like a crime boss in Gotham if you've got everyone who works for you, and then you think, why don't your lower level goons just kill you and usurp you and take your money? And sometimes that happens, but I think there's like a psychological element of control or something. Like, he's that guy who hires the private investigator, and the private investigator, I guess, takes his job very seriously because he ends up falling for the woman he's supposed to be spying on. Probably has a strict code of honor.
right. I think somehow we always end up talking about like power dynamics on our podcast, and also like dictatorial rule and fascism. Like, yes, it has long been studied that, you know, you can rule with an iron fist, and that's kind of what you're linking to here, which is true. Lucas, Jeanette's boo, seems to be like a businessman of sorts or something. But yeah, we get to unearth, peel back some layers of Dennis the Onion. We learn that he is a widow and has many, many children. He unfolds his wallet of pictures of his kids, and it just drops down to the floor. You know, he has many, many little ones to take care of. And so there's just a mutual yearning of the sorts for Jeanette to have a man in her life that is present, and for Dennis to find someone that doesn't necessarily replace his love that he lost, but for someone to step into their own shoes and fit into his life, which I guess you can find on the Love Boat.
Yeah, you can. You can get onto the Love Boat for a weird private investigator job and leave in an exciting new romance.
Yeah. And with very clever wordplay, you know, Dennis tells Jeanette on the dance floor, in order to get her to dance with him, he says, "We didn't put these glad rags on for nothing." Glad rags.
Glad rags. And then isn't that like the weird line where Jeanette's just like, isn't it just so cool to dress for dinner or something like that?
I think it's something along the
Yeah, she
lines.
says something like that. She's like, isn't it just great or just swell or far out dressing for dinner or something? And I don't know, I would probably say something like that. But it's also kind of interesting to like pack your best looks for this cruise and have this like really fancy cruise dinner and then be like, isn't it so cool that we're doing this? But that's maybe something I would also do.
Yeah, she's like, I didn't come prepared to serve cunt on this cruise, and she did.
She did.
We will find very soon in our final segment of the episode, when we get there, that she was turning looks left and right. And somehow, major plot hole, we see Jeanette walk off the cruise with a tiniest leather briefcase. Not even a suitcase. It's like a skinny manila envelope.
Of course.
How did she fit the gowns in there? I don't know.
Because you're expected to have all of these looks, all this finery, and yet, you know, you can't be the vain woman with the giant suitcase. You have to just have this little bag, which leads me to believe that she brought a bunch of clothes, maybe threw them overboard, maybe threw an extra suitcase overboard so that she could appear to have been like traveling real light. And she's just, you know, she's an on-the-go kind of girl. She's not worried. She's easy breezy.
Easy breezy. She has her glad rags. Speaking just of...
People threw stuff overboard all the time. The beginning of each episode of Love Boat starts with littering.
We still see the littering in this episode, which we'll touch on very soon. We do see people attempt to throw themselves off overboard, but I mean, for rather dark, sad reasons. But we see them snap together, and it becomes a moment of...
We do.
We'll get back to that. First, before that dark note, other strange, zany, archaic phrases that we heard in this episode. We heard Isaac, the bartender, tell Doc when Dale, in drag, was flirting with him, kind of.
Yeah.
Isaac tells Doc, "She's warm for your form." You like that?
Yeah.
It seems
the
not.
warm... No, I don't like warm for your form. That's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and-
Doc then has the cunning response, "I'd rather donate my body to science."
The concept
Ouch.
the concept of like donating your body to science was something that was really big back then. People did say that a lot. That was like a turn of phrase that people said, like, oh, they're going to donate my body to science because I don't know, drink so much or something.
Totally.
Yeah.
I do like that. I would maybe introduce that and sprinkle that. That is kind of one of my goals in mentioning all these strange archaic lines are finding which ones can we bring back now.
What colloquialisms have application in the modern life?
Totally. At one point, Dale in drag tells Captain,
Come on, Captain.
they say, I am using they, them pronouns for Dale in drag.
Not they, them pronouns for Dale in drag. We've already talked about this, and this is what we've settled on.
We don't know what.
I don't
okay.
know exactly, so there we go.
We could use she, but Dale says, isn't it sad what they're doing to the sexes? I like the sexes.
The sexes.
And a captain says, if we keep this up, we'll all end up one big sex.
And that really explains like the conservative anxiety
Totally.
around gender and around any type of queerness or gender nonconformity in general, is that we're all going to become pluralized into one big sex.
But then Dale has the final punctuation and gives it with a wink, better than no sex at all.
Right.
Fabulous.
Pluralized, depluralized, better than no sex at all.
Sure. Archaic lines, will we bring them back? I don't know. We can subvert them, bring them back, use them in opposite contexts. But yes, overboard. Tell us, people go overboard. It's rather sad, but...
It is rather sad, but I mean...
It becomes cute.
To be fair, it does become cute. To be fair, to start off, I mean, it doesn't go quite that way, but, you know, a human body is a lot more sustainably compostable in the ocean than, say, a bunch of plastic streamers or
Totally.
a suitcase full of designer clothing.
Absolutely.
But, oh, hello. We have a little visitor.
We have our first guest of the podcast, Miss Shar Shar.
Aw. But yeah, so there's a couple of unrequited romance inspired or motivated suicide attempts going on. I guess that John Ritter's character was going to throw himself overboard, but then this roommate girl, what is her name again?
Her name was Susan. And yes, trigger warning for us using this word and talking about this concept, but it's brushed over very quickly in the episode.
They were going to make, I'm trying to think about how, because I watch YouTube shows sometimes still, and people, they have to skirt around like the content, you know, regulations. So there's certain words that they just can't say. So instead of really basic words like died, they say like, then they stopped living, then they were no longer living. So Susan and Dale were both trying to no longer live by jumping off of the Love Boat, which is love, you know.
They were trying to jump off the lifeboat, if you will.
Exactly.
Well, they got onto a lifeboat.
They wanted
it was all
to get
good.
in, darling.
No one passed from this realm. They save each other, but then they both accidentally fall. Or actually, Susan kind of slips off, and then Dale jumps into the boat, or jumps into the ocean to save her, or
Right.
to rather just be wet with her in the Pacific Ocean. But it's all good. We didn't really
dies.
introduce Susan as well. So Dale in drag, whose drag name is also Dale. They do not choose a different drag name, which is
kind of a serve. I sort of love when queens do that.
sure, slay.
Yeah, I mean, I love when girls do that. I love when people keep their names. It's kind of a moment. It
Right.
just depends on the person. I could see Dale being real cute.
Or the pipeline of like having a drag name and then just kind of using that in everyday life. I kind of did that.
Yeah, me.
But anywho, Susan is the occupant of the available room that Dale gets into in drag. And so they end up falling in love for each other. The theme of this episode is bickering couples, but also falling in love with each other under disguise or illusion.
Or something.
Private investigator and Jeanette, and then Susan and drag queen.
Yes.
So that's another theme. But, you know, they have a nice relationship, and Dale eventually does reveal themselves as boy Dale.
Yeah, so like Mask Dale gets to know Susan by way of Femdale being like, ah! Okay, so I finally get to talk about this voice. It's giving like Elmo, Mickey Mouse but and like, you know, anytime she's like a flutter, anytime that Femdale is like feeling amorous, she's like, "Arr!" And it's like, which I mean, honestly, it's maybe not that exact sound, but
To
it
your
should
ears,
be
that's
to my
what it
ears.
sounds.
It is to. I mean, they should do a recut of the episode where they just replace all of Femdale's dialogue with like those type of noises. It would probably work just as well, except it wouldn't really make as much sense. But yeah, the voice, but anyway, their friendship is what. And okay, so here's the plot hole with this: is when they find out, when the whole old switcheroo is taken away and the masked Dale, being Dale's primary identity, is revealed. It's like you just hear they do
hear
the
sexy talk.
You hear sexy talk where she's like,
Well, we hear the first part of the episode name. We hear Susan go,
"Oh, Dale."
yes, that's where we get an "oh,
But
Dale"
it starts
at the
as
end.
like a woeful "Oh, Dale" when she
Right,
thinks she's
right.
talking to Fem, like, "Oh, Dale." Then it's like, "Oh, Dale," which leads me to believe, so was she just talking to Femdale, and then did Femdale just take the drag off to reveal Masked Dale, and then she was just like down, like there was no talk of the deception. She was just so happy to see him that. Or maybe she's part of her knew all along and she was okay with it, and they're going to keep this whole thing going. It's like, you know, part of Dale's gender
Susan
expression.
is a drag king. We don't know. She recognized
Well, then it's so great
artistry
that
of
they
drag.
found each other
Yes.
through mutual interests of drag and wanting to not be alive anymore.
Yes. We are gonna move right on. But speaking of other zany one-liners, and you are right onto something with the voice. In drag, I certainly don't intentionally or consciously put on a different voice. I feel like if I do think about it, I'll start off like higher or like more enthused. Hello. But that's not very different than my real voice, but it soon goes away. But Dale in drag certainly maintained that voice that you were doing earlier.
She thought she was master of disguising it, darling. She
Uh-huh.
thought she was giving. I mean, and it's a recognizable voice. As I don't know. I do that voice a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sometimes
I
we'll
like the
just be
voice.
driving and I'll hear you sigh and I'm like, is everything okay?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the voice is really just reflective of the parts I don't like about myself.
Oh.
Not the things that make me trans, but the things that make me go, "Ah!"
Absolutely.
Right.
But Dale felt it. She felt the wig and the sequins and the gowns and the polka dots flow through her veins, and she put on a voice. And she has a great one-liner at dinner, one of the dinners, when she spots the girl that they are chasing, they, them, Dale. And Dale says, "What's the matter, honey? Haven't you ever seen red hair before?" I liked that line.
Yeah, because she is jealous to see the girl that she's there to spy on with the man, and then when she catches them staring at her, she's like, "What's the matter, honey?" It gets confrontational. Haven't you
Right.
ever seen red hair before? Which is, you would think, drawing extra attention to yourself in such a way to start a commotion, start a confrontation at dinner would be like not the thing to do to break the cover. But I don't even think Dale wants to keep the cover, because at the end of the
No.
episode, she kind of like reveals herself by doing the voice. She's like, "Bye."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, she was fully performing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would maybe tip. Speaking of look, speaking of that dinner scene, we loved Dale's dinner scene look, which let's just jump right in. Let's get to one of our favorite parts of being conduits of the Love Boat is the fashions, which, speaking of, I love the sweater that my sister's wearing. To describe orally for those just listening, it's like a horizontal stripe moment. We have pink and blue, love pink and blue, fuchsia and turquoise, really.
Sure, but you know,
Pink and blue.
pink and blue.
I'm giving
I
a
salute
checkered,
the pink and blue.
a checkered moment. That
I know, I
my-
love this checkered moment. And this necklace is so cute. I was admiring it earlier.
Also pink and blue.
Yeah,
Trons. My neighbor gave me this dress.
it's very cute.
And many other skirts and dresses. That's another story. We'll come back to that one day.
Blossom's always befriending everyone around her, and everyone wants to give her things because she's so lovely.
And I won't reject them.
No.
Well, it depends, but
Yeah, yeah.
a bag of vintage clothing from a nice neighbor I will not
course.
reject.
I mean, you'll at least go through it.
I
mean,
did.
if there's pieces like this in there, that's a really good one.
I pulled aside some for my sister to see.
Oh.
But let's talk about the fashions, the vintage fashions in the Love Boat, season 1, episode 2. Up first, we have the stunning entrance 3-piece suits. It looks like from Stella and Maurice. Adorable. I love that they're wearing suits together usually in the whole episode.
Yes, they go in with kind of a matching suit motif, and they leave with kind of a matching suit motif, and both are excellent. I love the blue and yellow. I love that she has like the big flare collar. I love that his tie is like pretty much the same shade of blue as the shirt. It's all giving for me. I like the handbag.
The handbag is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, this pale yellow, this peep yellow, this like soft-boiled egg.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Easter fantasy.
Oh, and we didn't specify, but this segment is called Sink or Clink because we are either sinking these looks deep into the depths of the ocean if we don't like them, or we are clinking our glass to celebrate the
Just
fashion.
Sinking
Clink.
like Jeanette's suitcase of clothes that she threw across. This is obviously a clink. Spoiler alert.
Yes, big clinks all around. Okay, we have not a central character, but the unwilling donor of Dale's drag wig. Not the one that she's wearing in this photo, but we have a Dolly Parton-esque character kind of featured in the background of this episode with her 3 cowboys. And Dale just swoops by and steals one of her wigs. But I love the looks that they turn. She has no dialogue, but she's turning looks.
Since they're trailing luggage, I'm imagining it's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek thing. Like maybe she is performing on the cruise. Maybe she's singing on the cruise. Maybe these people are part of her crew. Maybe they're in her band. But either way, nobody was watching out for her wig box because it was taken right there in broad daylight moments after this. But she's giving standout side character, pop culture reference character. This color combo is really interesting between the pant and the handkerchief, the neck sheaf.
You're right. You know, it was stunning to look at first, but now that I'm looking at it closely, I don't know if I necessarily like it. I mean, I like the shininess of it. The sleeve is fun. We like a bell sleeve with a capped tight little cuff.
So much.
But you're right. The color story is rather interesting. What do you think?
I'm going to clink it anyway because she has a whole entourage of cowboys behind her.
Yeah, and they're cute.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can feature Dale's intro boy look, denim on denim. It's cute also. I like the jacket a lot. It's some kind of chore coat, a little denimina moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we're clinking across the board. We're very generous.
We're nice.
I mean, it's vintage fashion. We love vintage fashion.
I mean, yeah. The composition of the whole shot is just kind of interesting. It's kind of cool to even look at.
Right.
This, however.
We have Dale's first drag look. And really, this is her walk around. She stole this, so the wig comes from Miss Dolly Parton knockoff, and the dress comes just from some rather harmless ladies that were turned around. So I actually like it, though. You go first.
Maybe it's the fact that it's all played for laughs, but I really have trouble divorcing that from this presentation. However, I really like the belt. And
love the belt.
The fabric looks nice.
But you know me, if this was in my hand, or even if this was in your hands and you asked me, I would cut that right to the coochie. I would hem this dress. For those that are not watching, I guess that could sound confusing. I would hem this dress all the way. It's like a floor length long sleeve, cute little matching handkerchief, white dress with red polka dots, rather large polka dots as well.
Yeah.
But would totally just like cut that right in half, the lengthwise. But that belt is fierce. It looks like a little piece of licorice.
Yeah, I think they were trying to make her like dowdy but flashy at the same time. But now that I'm looking at it a bit longer, there's a lot about this that works, especially now that I'm imagining the hem being much shorter and maybe with like more of a pleat or something.
I just imagine one of us in it. We would look fierce. It's giving Yayoi Kusama like infinity installation with her polka dots.
Yeah.
I like it.
That's a great reference.
So I am clinking it.
Okay.
I am sinking the presentation, but what can you do? I don't know.
I mean, bad representation
You're going to sink the first drag queen on the Love Boat.
Questionably okay. Yeah. No, we'll clink. We'll clink her.
Okay, we clink. But Miss Dale will not be receiving all clinks. Maybe we will have to see.
No, we will not be so generous.
Okay, she's not a main character, but she was giving straight from the Suspiria universe. We need to at least review her. I don't know her name. I don't know who she is, but she caught my eye just walking by.
We'll continue referring to her as Mater Suspiriorum. She does look, I mean, this pattern, it's fascinating in the way that it separates.
Yeah, let's describe it. Let's see. It's a long sleeve. It's kind of like that polyester stretch vintage fabric, textile, or material, I mean. And it's very nautical. Like there's an undulating blue curve, and the orange could be like the sun or the sunset. I don't know. It's quite fabulous with this pearl necklace too.
Sure. There's kind of a weird face in it from this angle. If you think of those as like the eyes, it's giving... It's definitely a really, I don't know, I want it. It's a statement.
You would look
dress
beautiful
for
in
sure.
it.
Oh,
yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I don't know who she is, but cheers to her. She's outshining Jeanette in the corner, who, she was kind of the focus of the scene, but I don't know, she caught our eyes.
A much more composed look than the dolly.
Yes.
Really.
All hail Mother Suspiriorum. Who are the other mothers?
Tenebrarum and Lacrimarum.
Slay. She has my vote.
Yes.
Okay, we have one of Doc's minor roles in this episode. We don't see him often, but as in true Doc fashion, we see him with a very pretty lady with beautiful tits. But
another serving like side character.
Totally. Yeah, who is she? She stole the show though. She has this tiny little brown bikini on top and like this piece of fabric wrapped. It's a piece of fabric. But it's a beautiful piece of fabric tied into a little knot, and it just felt worth reviewing.
Yeah,
it's a clink.
we clinked it. We noticed it right off the bat. I mean, and at least it gives Doc. I don't know, like it's a very Doc light episode, as you said. It's a very Judy light episode. There's a lot going. Julie, I'm so stupid.
Oh my goodness me, my sister. Just kidding.
I'm so stupid. How many movies are there again? 4.
3.
7.
As many as that's the Harry Potter friend. No, there's 8. Okay. Yeah, she looks great. Tanned.
Yes.
And we gravitate towards the beat when we see the femmes. We want to see what is the hair and makeup doing, and she looks nice and sunny and sun-kissed here.
Absolutely. I mean, the beat queen of the episode is definitely Jeanette. She's always serving with the mug. It's like the brows are everything. The glossy lip is everything.
Yeah,
she's
let's
glowy.
See. I think we have a look of her. We have to get into that, Jeanette. Okay, here we have Miss Maury and great. Now I forgot the names too. We have this loving
Mr. Maury.
Mr. and Mrs. Maury, as often couples are referred to on this Love Boat.
It was that era, yeah.
Yeah, but they're turning. They are trapped in the elevator, but they are turning. I think possibly my top clinks of the episode. These looks are fabulous.
The coral dress with that, which is a separate on top, actually.
It's a separate capelet that ties in the front, or I think they tied it in the back, which was very interesting.
Right. So cute. And I was saying, I love like a ruffly shirt for this sort of situation, this sort of like little kind of cocktail tux or whatever this is. It reminds me of the scene in Beetlejuice when the Maitlands are being resurrected and Adam has like the roughly 80s formal shirt. I just love it. But, obviously it predates that time period even. It was like a thing then.
Yeah, it's beautiful though. Like I want to see that more in formal wear. Powder blue, yeah, it's giving short king and tall doll, love.
We love to see it, darling.
We do love to see it. And, if you're going to get stuck in the elevator, why not turn a look? Yeah, fabulous clinks. Possibly top clink of the week for me.
Yeah, the capelet really elevates it.
Totally. Okay, well, you take it away.
Okay, so the first time Ms. Dale wore this, I was like, wow, interesting choice with the boa and the flower brooch.
Ostrich, darling.
Thank you. Loved it the first time. But then she wore it again.
She wore it again.
The same statement evening gown to dinner.
Well, this is our first time seeing it.
The first time
we were wowed.
We were wowed. We loved it the first time.
Head to toe sequin silver gown, long sleeve, silver matching tiny hand glove, silver matching handbag, clutch purse, and that's a multiple plies of ostrich feather. She didn't just get a skimpy little boa. It's like a full on burlesque I don't know which old granny that was
Right.
clocking
What
into the
suitcase
cruise.
was this ensemble in? And I would like to think that her wearing it 2 nights in a row to dinner was a continuity issue and this wasn't Dale's choice, but maybe it was.
I mean, it's almost, I could warrant wearing it twice because it is fabulous. But that unfortunately, well, we'll get to the second one first. But first time seeing it, absolute clink. Would snag this if I saw it at Goodwill. Not more for $20, though. I think this was still her at the first dinner because this is her having dinner with Susan.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't actually. Susan's not really turning looks this episode. She's fine. We'll come back to her. Okay, now we can talk about Jeanette. We haven't really got to review her look, but this was a stunning dinner look. Full silk, I guess. I mean, it shines like silk for sure, and she's just stunning. But she is the beat
Fabulous.
queen.
She is. And, you know, the hair is laid too. She's always got like a cute little flip back.
She looks like you just pumped out some pearlescent soap from a fast food gas station bathroom, and it's pooled into your hand. You know, that shiny
yes,
soap.
yes. Usually it's pink, but sometimes it's like kind of a cream color.
Sometimes it's the cream
Yeah.
color, but no, they're turning it, and they look beautiful.
Absolutely.
Okay, Miss Dale's nightgown look. Sink, darling. We're sinking this. Oh, we didn't
Yeah.
clink. We clinked the last one too, but
Yeah, I doubt this is fire very much.
sink to the depths.
Sink.
Miss Jeanette, sporting a sporty look. She looks gorgeous.
Amazing.
That's all we have to say about
That's
it.
all we have to say. Like, you know, it's giving, you know, like tennis fantasy kind of.
Totally. Yeah, love a short that hugs the waist and a little tiny matching heather gray like sweater. So cute. Would rock. Probably not out, but at home or at the gym. I don't go to the gym.
At the Roblox gym.
Yes, clink.
Yes.
Okay, this is when Dale wore the outfit again. And
Oh, God.
we have to sink, darling, you cannot wear the same statement piece 2 nights in a row on the cruise.
They're in an isolated environment. There's only one dinner hall.
I know. Susan, on the other hand, she is turning up with this big top knot bun, flowy angel wing sleeve. Stunning. She looks like an angel.
Yeah, she's supposed to represent her like getting out of crisis mode now. She's supposed to be like elevated.
Totally. A final look of the show, we had Mr. and Mrs. Maurice slaying. They came in 2 pieces and they're leaving in 2 pieces.
I love.
2-piece suits. Stunning. Sage green. That actually might be the same suit that he entered in. It could be. No, it's different.
Yeah, it's totally different. But similar. But the sage green is, of course, the standout. I'm very partial to it. The contrast, we can't tell so much right here, but the contrast between the jacket and the blouse is really fun.
Absolutely. That was Sink or Clink. Mainly clinks all around.
There was a lot of great stuff on, you know.
There's
a lot of garments we wish we could get our hands on today.
Totally. All right, my sister. That's another episode in the bank for our lovely audience members. That was episode 2 of season 1. We are slowly but surely but fabulously, not slowly. I don't know why I said slowly. But slowly but surely is something people
Chipping
say.
away. We are chipping away at this series.
Yeah. We're chipping into.
We're chipping into it.
Mm-hmm.
We're chipmates, darling.
Talk chip. Get chip. You get a chip for being.
Aw,
You deserve 1 hot chip.
thank you.
You deserve more hot chips than that. Yeah, fabulous. Great episode. Romance abound. Lessons learned. Were they? I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I guess at the end of it, Jeanette and Mr. Private Investigator end up together. Dale and Susan end up together and probably continue the journey of, you know, exploring Dale's
A drag artist couple as well.
Exactly, a drag artist couple together, touring Hamburger Marys in the 70s.
Absolutely.
And you know, the sausage emperor and empress are, you know, reminded of their love for one another, and all is requited, all is good, everything is returned, everything is mutual. All truth is, I guess, at least glazed over and accepted. Which is
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah. How else can you run a sausage empire if you don't have love
Or glaze.
or glaze? But yeah, that was an episode again of Talk Ship Get Hip. We are making our way through season 1 of The Love Boat. And slaying the game while we're at it. We're so busy.
Yes.
But we have time. We have time for
We
this.
do.
And we have time to introduce and bring people into the fold. I think people will be brought into the fold.
We have time to convince people not to jump off the love boat,
Yeah.
if you will.
And if you're thinking about that, or if you have thoughts about us, or about the podcast.
Or if you have thoughts about pushing me off of the boat.
Well, you can tell us, but tell us other thoughts that are much more positive than pushing Romie off a boat. Reach out to us. Find us online at Talk Ship Get Hip on Instagram. Find us in the Gmail email universe where you can write to us, confess to us, ask questions of us ask questions about yourself to us at talkshipgethip@gmail.com. We want to review not
We
just
want
the
to
show,
review-
but
But your love lives.
absolutely.
As well as our own.
We won't, give them ratings or triptych episode names, although we
no.
could.
Ooh, triptych episode names. But no like letter grades or anything. That's
No,
mean. No.
no, we don't support.
No, we don't do that.
No. Academia,
No.
no. Learning, yes.
Yeah. Learning.
Institutional.
Eternal.
Hmm.
They got a few years left over it. Maybe a couple if they're lucky. But learning is eternal.
The girl had it coming to her. Institutional academia.
She
Sure.
she got it coming.
But yeah, reach out to us, plug in, and board our cruise with us. But congrats, my sister, on your serve.
Congrats on your serve, darling. Thank you for joining us.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.